Bob said last night that God is not done with Premier, and aren't you glad about that? I am, because I am a life changed. You are a life changed, and there are so many more lives to change. My first exposure to Premier was in 2003, and I was in college in Tallahassee, Florida State, not a bad. My college roommate's mom would come down to visit from Illinois, and she would, of course, do a jewelry show right off her trip, because that's what every good jewelry lady does, right? I would help hold the jewelry show, and I would collect orders and invite my friends so I could get free jewelry, because that's what poor college students want, free, right? So that was my first exposure to Premier. I just did jewelry shows every once in a while. But in 2006, I was 23 years old. I was fresh out of college, and I was teaching. I was an elementary school teacher. But I found myself in a really lonely place. This should have been a really exciting time in my life. I was a fairly new Christian, but I found out that I was pregnant. I was alone, and I had no one around me. Sorry, I wasn't going to cry. I was going to bring the tissues. But anyways, the dad decided that he didn't want to be involved in our life, and I was left alone. I was struggling with hurt, fear, sadness, and depression. I felt that I let everyone down around me, including this God that I was learning about. I already questioned if he could love me after all my past. Through this pregnancy, I sought godly counsel, and through lots of time alone with God, he did show me that he really did love me. On September 17, 2006, I became a single mom to Elise Jaden, who is my pride and joy. It was a very, very lonely journey. All my close friends were out doing what 20-something-year-olds do, and I was alone trying to figure out how to soothe a crying infant by myself. After Elise was a year old, one of my mentors introduced me to someone who was a single dad as well. He had never been married either. He had an 8-month-old. I met Michael on October 7th, 2007. And I joked because it was a blind date, and our first date was with my mentor, her husband, and my parents. My husband's parents, our 2 little kids, a year old and an 8-month-old. That was our first date. We began journeying and dating as young single parents. We both had lots of baggage to bring to the table and lots of healing that needed to occur, let alone the bills that were piling up. In April of 2008, my Premier mom, who had been doing jewelry shows with me, shared the business plan with me because I contacted her about a broken piece of jewelry. Replacement exchanges are an opportunity. My roommate's mom shared with me about Premier and knew that I needed income and I needed it quick. It was a thinking process for me. It took me months to decide, but Michael came from a very entrepreneurial family, and he said you should give it a try. My Premier mom was in Illinois, and I lived in Florida, so we had to coordinate a training show and the timing. On June 13th, 2008, my contract went through with Premier, and I know that so well because Michael proposed to me that day as well. These 2 things have changed my life like I would have never thought. I was getting married though, and I needed money immediately, and I knew that I could pick up that garnet bag and go do jewelry shows, and that's all I knew. I didn't even know that the jewelry did tricks. I would show it and say, "Isn't this pretty?" I didn't care about anything else, and I was definitely not going to sponsor. My Premier mom encouraged me at my training show to get people there to hear about the business, but I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. But the good news is we got married in 5 months, and we paid off our wedding. We had no debt from the wedding, but we had other debt. It totaled $75,000, and a lot of it was credit cards. 2 weeks before we got married, my husband lost his job in real estate. We were in a definite bind. We got married. He was on our honeymoon trying to get job interviews, and it was awesome. We were in a definite bind. We had 2 kids under the age of 2, and I was on a teaching salary. It never really clicked to me that I could use jewelry to help us get out of debt or to provide for us. 9 months into Premier, I went to another direct sales party. The consultant was sharing about all the money she made that month in her personal sales and commissions. And I thought, and I brought a prospect with me for Premier to that show, and she sponsored that girl right under me. And I thought, I don't know what the potential is with Premier and why what company would I like to be involved in? So I started doing research. Our office was in our bedroom at that time, and I went home that night and I told my husband all that happened, and I stayed up till 4 a.m. researching companies and marketing plans, and he's like, go to bed, what are you doing? I got out that book, By Chance or By Design. I'd never read it, and I read it in one day. I was so intrigued by Angie and Joan's story. I told my husband that there was this event that they talked about in the book that was coming up in July and that we should go. And he's like, are you kidding me? We have so much debt. And I said, but we have Sky Miles for so much debt. So, we went to Raleigh. We flew to Raleigh for free on our Sky Miles. My financial planner's in the house. He's loving this. Okay, so anyways, at that first rally, my upline couldn't go. We were totally by ourselves. We knew no one. I sat in the highest seat as possible. I had won the Quick Start Award, but there's no way I was walking across that stage. So I sat up in the highest seats as possible, and I just observed everything. I observed every jewelry combination, because I didn't know there were such things, and I wrote them down in that notebook. That is my favorite notebook ever, because it literally is filled from front to back. I'd never heard of training, nothing. And so I was scribbling that notebook full. We would go back to the hotel room at night, and I couldn't sleep. I just lay awake thinking of all the things I could do with this business. I would go in the bathroom at night, and I would write down all these things while he's sleeping. I was up all night for 3 nights in a row. I could not stop thinking that I was going to use this business. Okay, so my dream now became to be debt-free and to also replace my income as a teacher so I could be home with our 2 little ones. Most of all, the Lord put a dream in my heart that rally 6 years ago for a women's ministry. That first day back from Raleigh, first day back, I sponsored my very first jewelry. I became a designer in the spring of 2010 and a 1 diamond the next spring. My business was going really well. I had awesome jewelers, great shows. We were paying off debt, and in 3 years, we paid off $45,000 of that debt, and Michael allowed me to stay home finally. I had replaced my income and was very happy about that. But for 3 straight years, that's where we stayed. I was replacing my income. We weren't able to pay off any more debt. We were just at a stagnant place in our business. Personally, Michael and I were going through a very hard time in our marriage. We had a baby together, and her name is Jules. So I could never quit her marriage. But we were really pressed for money. It was a really hard time for us. I knew that we needed to make some changes, but I just wasn't sure what they were. I needed to create momentum, but I didn't know how. So our group went to spend some time with the Drapers, and Randy said some things to me that really motivated me. He challenged me to double my activity in my shows and in the opportunities to share. And most of all, and Randy spoke this truth to me, he said I needed to change my attitude. After immediate growth in my business, I began to be focused that I could do this, and I could do this alone, without God. I had lost my focus. God quickly brought me to a place where he broke my pride. He said I needed to be on my knees and working obediently. It wasn't about the accolades I was getting, but ladies' lives that needed to be changed. God made it clear to me that I could not be a truly godly leader until I could submit and be led by him. I went back to the basics in my business, holding jewelry shows, sharing the business, and praying for ladies that needed hope. I needed to focus on what I knew to do and leave the results to God. I made a personal goal in 2013 to hold 100 jewelry shows because that was doubling my activity, and to hold 100 personal OPs. It totally changed everything. The energy my team got from this was amazing. The new girls were on fire, and I challenged them to begin sharing from the start. I prayed specifically for leaders that would have the same passion to share the hope of Christ through Premier, and 3 of those amazing ladies are here today with us. Such a blessing. In 2014, I made the same goal to share with 100 ladies and hold another 100 jewelry shows. This year made my team grow stronger and to multiply faster. So here are my statistics for a new number of people. Last year, at the end of May, we promoted to 3 diamond. We had 3 total designers, and we had 75 jewelers. This past March, we promoted to 5 diamond. We had 9 total designers and 150 jewelers. Let me be clear, this is not about the numbers. but about the influence that God has allowed me to have in the lives of these women. And God spoke to me this morning through this verse. In Psalm 51, 12 through 13, David is speaking after his sin with Bathsheba and the murder of her husband. And he says to the Lord, "Restore to me the joy of your salvation and make me willing to obey you. Then I will teach your ways to rebels and they will return to you." In verse 17, he says, "The sacrifice you desire is a broken spirit. You will not reject a broken and repentant heart, O God." He wants to take your past and use your life to teach others about him. All you need to do is be real before him and be humble. I have watched in the past 2 years of growth in our team, ladies rededicate their lives to Christ, healing in the lives of the broken, families restored, and even salvations. If I would have quit in the valley of my business, it wouldn't have hurt me, but all the lives that were affected. So if you are in a valley, do not quit. Learn from it and be ready to climb up your next mountain. It is amazing what's happened in our business. The Lord has truly opened up the floodgates. I got that original vision at Rally 6 years ago, and God has truly done it. The personal side of this is we are completely debt-free, and our marriage has been truly changed. We love Premier, and it is something that has been positive in the midst of dark and negative things in our life. He is using our broken lives that have been made whole through Christ. He's using leadership to change me more than I thought and build my character. He's given me more confidence. He's grown my self-esteem, like Melissa was talking about. I was a very insecure person prior to Premier, and God has helped me to see that I am worthy of good things, especially his love and his beautiful redemption. I am forever grateful that on that day, I said yes to marry Michael and yes to becoming a Premier Designs jewelry lady. I am a life changed.